Picking up right where we left off. Here's part 2 of the interview. All things R&B divas.
And
Oh,
everybody,
we're doing it. We're just doing it live in venues with people who like music.
there you go. I just hate it though. I hate
Yeah.
it though, and that's why when R&B Divas came about,
Yes.
that I was so overjoyed. And I never got a chance to tell you this, but there's one thing about you that I admire so much, and because I've been on the periphery of your art. You are one person, Nicci. I don't know where you come up with your ideas, but one thing that I know about you from sitting back and watching, if you get an idea, it's going to come to fruition.
Oh.
And what you did with R&B Divas, it was it only made sense. It just, when I saw the very first commercial for it, I'm like, this just only
Yeah.
makes sense. And why didn't somebody do this sooner? And in my mind, I had already started building out the cast in each city. I was like, oh, on the next one, it's gonna be this group and that group and that group.
Wow.
Tell us about R&B Divas. Like, where'd you pull that from?
Yeah. Honestly, I have to give credit to the Housewives.
Okay.
I have to give credit to the Housewives franchise because I remember watching it and I remember thinking, well, first of all, prior to Housewives, I'd done, which we'll probably get into, a play called Soul Kittens Cabaret.
Okay, yes.
And what a lot of people don't know is most of the women from R&B Divas were a part of Soul Kittens Cabaret.
Gotcha.
Selena was in Soul Kittens, Monifa, Faith, most of the women, right?
It just made sense.
So we had already started doing this whole process of documenting the journey of making this play.
Okay.
Right? So just kind of like, and we still have the footage to this day. Tatiana Ali, Trinice from American Idol, just so grateful these women blessed me with their presence in that, right? But when I saw Housewives and I saw how much of a hit it was, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, this would be awesome if we could figure out a way to do this with R&B singers. Originally, my title was R&B Wives.
Okay.
Right? Because it was
Made
like we're
sense, following
mothers,
the
we're, you know what I
thing.
mean?
Right.
So I like to get, unlike a lot of my, I like to give credit where credit is due. So I remember watching that and feeling like there could be a great opportunity for us to really tell our real stories because so many times we get caught up in this whole space of trying to, feeling like we have to be perfect, right? And I was like, most of us have kind of fallen off, right?
Yeah.
I mean, let's
for lack of a better word.
keep it up.
Yeah.
I mean, now we didn't know that we would 10 or 15 years later become the legendary, artists that we are, and that music would kind of stop right there and, but I felt like it was important for us to share our stories. So I reached out to Tweet and Selena and Kiki and Little Mo. I remember us all getting on a call before anything happened. Like, hey, are y'all interested in this? And they're like, yo, this is dope. We would love to. So I flew Selena down, flew Monifa down. I'm like, my husband, I'm like, we need your credit cards. We need your, you know what I mean?
Right.
And just did everything in our power to put together, just start shooting. And then I edited a sizzle reel. And then I said, listen, we need an anchor. We need somebody who is going to, really carry this show. So I reached out to Faith and she was just like, sis, I got you. What's up? Because me and Faith been friends since before she had her deal.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like, that's like one of the few people I call my friend and my sister in this industry. And she came on board and then she brought Phil Thornton, who was managing her at the time. And then Phil was like, hey, let me introduce you to these people over at Think Factory because there's some show. WeTV was looking for something at the time. Okay. So we flew to LA and we interviewed Think Factory as a production company. And at the time, I didn't understand ownership. At the time, I had no idea about. I'm an R&B
You don't
girl.
know what you don't know.
You know what I mean? But I know that I was the only. The idea and the actual. It was more than an idea.
Right.
We actually shot tons of footage, which we still have. You know what I mean? So Think Factory sort of took over from that place, which wasn't all bad in the beginning, honestly. And the rest is history. Here we are.
It was an amazing show. And then before we get into the demise and the drama of it, who tell us somebody maybe who was going to be on the show that y'all were looking at that didn't make it. Didn't make the show. Like who all were you looking at? Tweet would have been nice.
Tweet. I actually have, like, I interviewed Tweet. Mila was an early interview. Oh, Mila was actually on the show.
From 702.
She was on the show, yes. I always wanted, like, my vision for it was to make it a safe space for your Tamias and your Deborah Coxes. Yes. And then even to do, like, I was ready to do legendary R&B divas with, like, your Mickey Howards and your Stephanie Mills. You understand what I'm saying? Like, it was already, yes. Come on. I was like, no, this is finna be. Yes. You understand?
Yes.
But I think, you know, Think Factory, they're younger than me. You understand what I'm saying? And, like, no shade, but, like, they're in the TV business, right?
Right.
We're in the legacy business, the music you know what I mean? So I think that there was just a moment of, let's make great TV. And this is where the housewife shit came to bite me in the ass.
Okay.
You know, you see the success of, let's flip a table, let's throw a drink, let's do it, whatever. And then it starts to be, now, you know, you don't want this to be no snooze fest, but, you know, we'll get into that. But I wanted it to be a safe space for all these incredible women to be a part of it.
And that would have been so dope, especially when you just, you know, I interviewed Mickey Howard a couple months ago.
That's my girl.
And I mean, to have reached back and start building out, like, on the Mickey Howard, when you have her and then you have other people from her, that would have been dope, because I mean, I want to know the stories. Like, I want to know the business. I want to know other people's business.
And that's more compelling. Like, you could put any group of people together to just fight and not like each other.
It is.
What's compelling is you did that and I didn't like it. Yeah. And I'm gonna tell you about it. And I always felt like we should be able to have those conversations and then fix it and like still be cool.
So you know, before we even get into the drama of R&B Diva, because y'all had some legendary drama. Just in a nutshell, Nicci, what happened? I mean, the Atlanta one, y'all had how many seasons to air?
I think Atlanta did 3.
3, and then LA did 2.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so one day y'all on our TV, season after season after season, and then next day it's like the show is gone. And as somebody like me who followed very closely, all I know to this point is that there was some legal mumbo jumbo and you didn't like what was going on legally, and it was a clash, and TV won, and then now the stuff is just gone. So as much as you can tell them,
your ass scared me away from the motherfucker. No, I'm just saying, like, I was like, oh my God, you know. But and it's so funny, like, hindsight. You get it, right? You know what I mean? It's girl, bye. Why would you even, you know? But I think number one, it was new for all of us, right? So there was some ego everywhere, because again, you have women who we're not used to this, like. Somebody telling us where to be, where to go. And then when it started, so season 1, let's rewind a little bit. So going into this, we made promises to each other that if it ever started to get off the tracks, if it ever started to get crazy, and in the beginning, we were calling each other like, okay, look, now I'm gonna let you have it a little bit, but you know, we gonna bring it full circle. So you already kind of knew you weren't watching TV. Not so much, but like, we weren't like, hey, we gonna do this just for TV. Right. But it was like, hey, something came up. I want you to know I love you, but I'm going to talk to you about it. And we're going to save it for camera because we feel like people need to see these moments of getting to it and healing, right? But I think what started to happen was, you know, like, I don't play when it comes to, like, TV really negatively impacting real life.
Correct.
Right? So we all know Kiki was pregnant, right? We all know Kiki and Michael had their whole thing, right? So what was happening, first of all, I asked each of these women to participate in this. Think Factory didn't ask them. Phil Thornton did not ask them. Nobody cast this show or asked them. And I'm not saying that like, but these were my friends. These were people who trusted me to protect them as much as possible. And I was walking around them thinking I had actually some real influence, Faith and I, because we were the executive producers, not understanding that co-executive producer is much different than executive producer. Like we get into that, but you know, people accept vanity credits. That wasn't us. So I would have people calling me like, hey, listen, and I very specifically, and I'm not saying this to throw Kiki under the bus because everybody knows how tight we are. But I remember her saying, listen, look, I'm pregnant. I'm going through a lot in my marriage. Like, they're thinking about inducing my labor. Like, this shit is stressing me out. Like, Nicci, like, for real. Like, I can't, like, this is really stressing me out. So I would go to production and say, hey, listen, this is really having a real negative impact. Like, when me and Selena sat down and had the whole conversation about, you know, hey, let's talk to Kiki, but let's do it maybe at a spa. Let's do it, you know, in a relaxed environment, right? You know, Selena would be like, okay, cool. And then somebody might be like, but yeah, wouldn't it be much more interesting if we just got y'all drunk?
So it's a
and we
divide and
just
conquer
set y'all up in a such and
situation.
such, and y'all such and such. And I'm not going to pretend for nobody. So I'm like, what are you? We said we wasn't going to do it like this.
Right.
We said, what they talking about? This is her real life. She's really going to induce labor. Like that whole big sort of moment of like me feeling like Norma Desmond and getting up storming out and shit. And Kiki, the Stream Beans thing, which was great television. It was a beautiful moment. But that was a very serious, like she's going literally in less than 24 hours to induce her labor. So why are we attacking this woman? Because we want great ratings for television. And not only that, why would you put somebody who's so valuable to the show? Because say what you want to say.
Yeah, in harm's way.
You're not watching All My Children without Erica Kane. If that was the show she was on. Like the villain is the reason people tune in. So you don't want them to walk away from the show. So it was also about being a producer and trying to make sure that I protected and maintained the integrity of the show. But then that turned into something completely different. And then I started getting emails I was not supposed to get where I understood exactly what the plan was, which was for us to not be friends anymore and for us to like
have drama.
go at it.
Did you find it difficult trying to be a producer and a cast member? And the reason why I asked that question is because history has shown us that it just don't work. It just doesn't work. Like, you know, you had Mariah Huck over there with Married to Medicine. You had you over there with R&B Divas. You even had Shawnee over there at Basketball Wives. And, you know, for me, somebody who sits in this reality TV review spot where I've sat for so long, in my opinion, it creates an unfair power dynamic.
I agree.
I think, you know what I'm saying? And then I think something else that we the viewers tend to notice sometimes is that the person who created the show or brought the girls together or whatever the case may be, they want to be the queen bee or the mother hen character because, you know, this is my shit. This my shit. Like when you told Selena, and you work for me, bitch. You see what I'm saying? So then we start getting into that kind of territory. You know what I'm saying? You work, bitch, I ain't never worked for you. You start getting into that territory. And it's funny because it kind of is inevitable if you are a producer and a cast member. So in hindsight, if given the opportunity to ever get this thing off the ground again, would you do it the same way, or would you still try to be both, or would you pick one?
So here's the thing, and a lot of people don't know this. I did pick one.
Okay.
I originally was not going to be on the show. True T was like, I'll come in and out and do the Mona, right? Because I always wanted to be a producer over a talent. But I think the issue was they were like, oh, you're so strong on television and you're so opinionated. We need you. In fact, after season 1, there was a big meeting with the network, and I was like, look, I'm just going to step off. I'm just going to, and the head of the network called me and was like, if you don't come back, there will not be a season 2. So I was like,
strong on you.
Okay. Well, I mean, but, you know, and I don't know that was true either. I don't know that if I didn't come back, they wouldn't, but you know, they needed that energy, specifically the energy they were building with Selena and I, because she from Chicago, I'm from Detroit.
Both strong personalities.
We gonna say we both 6 feet tall, and we both gonna say.
And listen, you definitely were needed. I mean,
what I'm saying?
It was great, authentic TV. Your contribution definitely would have been noticeably, you know, absent had you not been there. So I am glad
and I didn't want that, but because you asked that question, I realized, and it was never. See, here's the thing that like a lot of people get confused about me. I am giving to a mother freaking fault. I'm not coming in the room like this my shit and this my thing and this my whatever. Now I'll let you know if you get a little too carried away with it, but it's always been like for example, Kiki's baby shower. They're like, Nicci, we need you to go and start. I'm like, I'm not doing that. Like, don't try to set me up for that shit. It was so many times. Like when they said I didn't introduce Selena, that was a lie. I did. They just didn't show it. So these little games and tricks and shit that started, like when I realized that was happening, I was like, no, I'm not doing this. Then I realized I got promises, right? It was, this is what we're going to do, blah, blah, blah. So to answer your question, I absolutely would continue to be an executive producer, and I absolutely would be on camera. What I will never do is allow someone else to control my narrative. That
You know the game now, though. You know the game.
We grown. We're not going back to third grade. We're grown. And the bottom line is, you don't disrespect Shonda Rhimes. You don't disrespect Tyler Perry. You don't disrespect. So why is it that Mariah Huck and Nicki and Nene and, you know what I'm saying, all of these leaders of the franchise, you know, are used as tools to create division and madness, right? I don't think that the ensemble had a problem. I think that the leadership, and not TV1. TV1 was always in my corner trying to figure it out. It was be culturally, and I'm not saying this to be disrespectful.
Right.
And that's the problem with me.
Right.
I say the real shit and it just comes off disrespectful, right? The culturally incompetent white male lens that didn't even listen to our music.
I agree.
That did not understand our fan base cannot control the narrative on the shows. That show was a very successful series. And the truth is, when I left, it did go away.
You know, it's so funny that you said the white male lens, because I've got a couple of executive producer friends. I've got a good friend of mine who just came off of a black female ensemble show on Bravo, and a large part of the conversation that he and I would have in the midst of his frustration, he was like, these white male gays just think they know black women better than, and I'm telling them they need to just move the hell out of the way, like you don't know what it is you are talking about. You know, and it's funny that you mentioned it, and I've never shared this before whatsoever out of respect for Selena and Rashawn and Quan. But that was part of my problem with Sister Circle. When I was on Sister Circle, when we auditioned, we had this short little white woman walk in the room, and she said, "Oh my God, Black women are the #1 watchers of daytime television, and I am just so glad that I get to come on here and create this for Black women and just give Black women deserve." And then I'm day one, first day on the job, I'm looking around and I'm like, y'all, this don't feel uncomfortable to y'all. And so I said, not that a white person can't be over a black show and a black person can't be over a white show. I said, okay, but I'm gonna sit back and see how she gonna staff this thing. So if you're gonna be up at the top and you white, the #2 and the person that's dealing with the talent needs to be black and needs to understand what the hell going on.
Yes.
Baby, that woman was lily white.
Yeah.
The woman was lily white. And here's the other funny thing. I'll never forget, speaking about cultural competence, when I was auditioning for R&B Divas, when I was auditioning for Sister Circle, the lady pulls me in the room and she's like, I can't tell you everybody that's going to be on the show, but we're talking to this big time singer. I mean, she's big and she lives in Atlanta. Now, mind you, one of the producers that tapped me went to college with a friend of mine, so I kind of had a little bit of insight. I knew we didn't have no budget. So I'm going through all of the big time singers that lived in Atlanta, and I'm like, they don't have a budget for Toni Braxton.
Oh, wow.
I'm like, they don't have a budget for Toni Braxton. And I'm not shading Selena, but the point that I'm making is because this lady was so incompetent culturally, she put 20 on 10. Yeah. You see what I'm saying? And this is what happens when you ain't the right color for the role. That's just like sending me over there to produce the Country Music Awards. I have no idea what it is that I be doing. I'm gonna tell you one. I'm gonna say since I got you on the line too.
Ooh, child.
Something about R&B Divas that I did not like.
What is that?
I didn't like the Faith Evans presents the R&B Divas, or the Faith Evans and the R&B Divas. I didn't like that, and as a viewer, Faith was kind of pedestaled on it. It was like, you know, it was very evident that she didn't live in Atlanta, and kind of the way her thing went was like, Faith is the queen. She dropped in and out, you know, and the rest of the girls is, you know, a list. Me personally, I didn't like that, but I also understand sometimes the way business goes, the way egos go, the way sometimes when people feel like they're a bigger artist or whatever, in order to do this, you know, I want this. It is something so funny though. and this is some shady stuff.
Here we go.
I can't remember what event we was at, and Angie Stone was there. We was drinking, having a good old time. Me and Angie just shooting the shit. And I said, Angie, why didn't the tour take off? Why didn't the tour take off? You know, we wanted to see the tour. And Angie said to me, I can't remember what the number was, but she said they wanted to offer me this number. I'm just going to arbitrarily say $30,000 to divide amongst the group. And she was like, and I make $30,000 on my own being single. She was like, this with the shade come in. She said, what I look like taking the same pay as Monifa. And I was gagged. You know what I'm saying? And I ain't lying. Angie said it. Angie said, she's like, what I look like taking the same pay as Monifa. And, you know, certain people can command more, yada, 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 yada. Yeah. Did y'all run into a lot of that when it came to trying to put that tour together? And is that why the tour never materialized?
So again, okay, first thing I want to address is Faye. And and this isn't just because that's my sister and that's my friend. But she was a lot of things that you assumed would be the talent doing that. You know, like E1 put the record out. You know, you understand what I'm saying? Like, it's just, you know, it's a shame that artists get such a bad rap when they're not even, you know what I mean? Like, it's not even. And when I tell you in terms of like a person who is going to have your back, a person that's going to level the playing field, a person that's not coming in the room with some diva shit, it's Faith Renee Evans. Okay. Period. Okay. You understand what I'm saying? Like, no, and most people who know her know that's not even how she get down. Like, but what Faith will do is be like, oh, this what we doing? Okay. Toodles. And you'll look up and Faith will be gone. You understand what I'm saying? Because she doesn't do drama. Understood. Right? She's not doing any of it. She grown. And the bottom line is she was the anchor. And the bottom line is Angie. You know, there is a hierarchy here, right? But the other part of it is the reason the tour didn't happen, right? Let's just say what it is because that is an ancillary property. So that is something that we had ownership of. So if you created a franchise, right, and you came to the table, it was always about a tour. It was never. Because that's where the real money would have been made, right? Man, listen. Because that money, that would have paid better than TV money, right? What I'm saying? You understand? The whole point of the show was to be marketing for the tour. Everybody knew before they even stepped foot on a set that it was about a tour. So for season 2 to come along, and here's the biggest issue, because see, this is where it starts to get into affecting people's generational wealth opportunities, and you know I'm an advocate for that. Most definitely. I went to Think Factory, and I keep calling them by name. I went to the production company. I'm sorry, y'all. And you know, they knew that that was what it was about. First season, we said, let's make this about Whitney because Whitney passed, right? So we're like, let's raise money for the Whitney Houston Academy. Let's make it. So let's do season 2 about the tour. I had Live Nation. I had the same promoter who promotes for Tyler Perry, who's one of the most reliable, pay you on time, make sure the stuff is going right promoters in the country. Every one of them divas knows or at some point has dealt with either directly or indirectly with this person. Okay. So when we went to the leadership and talked about it, they said, can we get cut in on it? And we were like, absolutely not. You get the show. We get this. This is how we make our money. So then it becomes more interesting to make the show about the tour not coming together because you're not making any money off of the tour actually happening. I had been in contact with TV One and Radio One about them coming on board. They were on board. But at the end of the day, when I showed up day 1 of filming season 2, they had already pulled Selena and Celicia to the side, allegedly, and got a booking agent versus a tour company, production company, to talk about a tour when that was the whole point of me coming in as season 2. I agree. Look, I'll come back, but we really got to focus on the tour. Let's make it about us rehearsing. Let's share one band. Let's do favored nation, so everybody's
Everybody get
getting the
paid
same
same.
amount.
Come on.
And if we got to bring some headliners in, let's put them egos to the side
And just-
and let these headliners come and sell these tickets for our
So we
asses.
can all eat.
And it just turned into, let's argue about it. Let's debate about it.
Wow.
And that is probably the biggest travesty of all of it, because we could still be eating and working
That's what I'm
and
saying.
thriving off of it.
And I think that's the most disheartening thing, because it R&B Divas wet our palates, and I was like, we need this. And honestly and truthfully, Nicci, to your point, y'all could have still been touring that same old
Baby,
tour, just
listen.
round and singing them same old damn songs, doing them same old sets, just round and around and
Live
around
with
and
a band
around.
and coming out.
And then you start adding your people from
Yeah.
your other cast and your
Yeah.
Mickey Howards and all these
Yeah.
different people, and it just would have been phenomenal. We sat on R&B Divas for a minute here, but just at the end of the day, Nicci, what happened? Why isn't it not on TV right now?
I think at the end of the day, we were younger.
Mhm.
We were all too caught up in ego,
Mhm.
all of us,
Mhm.
myself, everybody. We did not see the power of the unity.
Mhm.
We did not see the power of the longevity that the unity would have created.
Mhm.
And I do believe that if a person brings, this is your show,
Mhm.
this is your moment. No matter how much I think I'm a producer,
Mhm.
I have to respect that.
Mhm.
Same as if if Selena called me or Monifa called me or somebody called me like, look, I got this idea, I'm doing this thing. And I'm like, okay, let's do it. I'm always going to respect where
Right.
it came from.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's just, I'm
You can
just
take
going to
second
respect where it
position.
came
I'm going to
from.
subordinate myself to you.
Especially when somebody's cool and like,
Yeah.
no, like, you know what I mean? So I think that we all got into a space of like ego and I'm just not doing this and taking it too seriously.
Mhm.
I know I didn't take it too seriously because a gun was pulled on my husband and my
Mm-hmm.
daughter was asked to proposition Kiki's husband. So at that point it was done for me, right? But
Say what? Say huh?
no,
She
yes,
was. Your daughter was asked the proposition. Who
baby,
asked by
baby. Production came to they came to a radio personality we all know, I'm not gonna put her name out there, and asked her to do it. And she was like, are you crazy? And she was looking for me at my Curvato fashion show. And then when she said, are you crazy? Absolutely not. They set my daughter next to Kiki and someone came over and was like, could you just rub Kiki's husband's leg or just like rub up
See, I
to
don't
him,
like
whatever. And did not tell me until the end of the fuck. Well,
The-
they knew. My husband was like, my daughter told my husband, he was like, don't tell her or it's going to be over.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And of course they told me. And I said, if you ever in your life do something like that again, first I'm going to you up. And then I'm going to leave the show. Because you don't know what trauma she's had to endure in her life. And that is the kind of stuff that was happening to Kiki on the if you think about it, they gave one of the assistants from Patchwork a blank thing and said, hey, just walk in and ask and offer this to Kiki. She had no idea that she was being set up to cause an issue with Kiki and her husband. You understand what I'm saying? So when those things started to happen, it just was like, nah, this is real life and we're not doing that. But I think outside of that, we did all get too caught up in believing the hype one way or the other, listening to what your ass was saying on live, online, listening and just buying into it and investing too much into it and not really staying rooted in this is longevity. Let's build this thing out so it can go for years.
So it imploded, essentially.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so
simple
it
answer.
imploded. So all this time, Nicci, I was thinking it was like legal issues and stuff. It's just simply just a cast fell apart.
The legal the legal stuff was after the gun was pulled on my husband. I made the decision. I wasn't even going to finish out the season. I made the decision to finish out the season.
And y'all had to do it with security and all of that, I remember. Because it was Rocky pulled the gun on your husband,
Rocky
Latasha
pulled the gun
Scott's
on my
husband.
right. And that was just the wrong person for
you
you.
think Rocky and Latasha stole that girl money?
I'm not getting into that. I wish them the best. I wish them the best.
Who got her money? Go
Lord
ahead.
child. But my husband at that point was just like, yo, I mean, my husband's a Philly, military. Like that's just the wrong. Like it just could have really
gone south.
And thankfully, Rocky called him like later that night, like, dude, like, I'm
fucked up.
Right. And I was talking to Jamie Foster Brown, and Jamie Foster Brown is like Auntie Jamie. And Rocky and them had talked to her. So she came and she talked to my husband and I at the studio, and we recorded it. And she She called me on the phone first, and I was just like, and they blah 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 blah, just venting, like I can't believe it and such and such. She basically took the phone conversation and put it in the magazine, and then she put Kelly Price's conversation and Shantae Moore, I believe. So they used that and leveraged that as a reason to stop paying me. So I had 2 franchises on television. I had Atlanta and I had LA. And most people don't know I had not gotten paid for years. Like they just stopped paying me when I stopped being a talent. And I was told by one of the execs, there's a reason why there is a rearview mirror and you're in it and we're moving forward. And
with your shit.
I was like, but wait, right. You can move forward without me on camera. Good luck.
Right.
But business is business.
Right.
And then it turned into, well, you breached your confidentiality agreement because we read that Jamie Foster Brown interview. And if you don't take this much less, then you don't get anything. And I was like, oh, hell no. To the no, no.
Right. Anybody would.
And then they did Hollywood Divas, which I pitched in my meeting. Theater Divas and Hollywood Divas.
It only makes sense.
And Think Factory, and they were all executive producers on it, but we created R&B Divas. Hollywood Divas is an ensemble of 5 women, same story. They told me that it had nothing to do with it. And it's Carlos King and Candy's husband. Right. So I was like, come on now, y'all.
Y'all
come on, like, I mean, not come on, y'all.
This is a spinoff of R&B
like, what
Divas.
are we doing? Everybody knows what this is.
Right.
But because I was already painted to be the bitch that nobody liked, they're like, oh, go for it. You're going to make your career even worse. And it happened. It definitely happened. People ate me up even more. But I don't care.
Right.
Look, give me my bag. You can not like me, but you're going to pay me.
And so was your pushback to not being paid ultimately is what got all 3 of them off of TV?
So here's the thing. I think what got all 3 of them off of TV, I'm a very spiritual person. I don't think you could take the heart and the soul out of something. And that was my heart and my soul. Yeah. I put so much into it, financially, emotionally, whole nine, and have it still live. Something you cannot do that.
To people, yeah.
It's just the laws of the universe.
Yeah.
It ain't gonna work.
Yeah.
And Faith left, I left, and Kiki was like, I'm out. It just started
unraveled.
to dominoes fell. Yeah.
Well, y'all, there we have it. I always wanted to know what had happened to R&B Divas, and we got it directly from the horse's mouth.
Yes, but we own the trademark now, and we are definitely hosting this reunion when we can.
So there is a chance in hell that it may come back in some form,
it's coming
fashion,
back. The chance in hell is whether or not, I would love to see the original women come back and work through
the same stuff. Me too. And a lot of people's lives have gotten a lot interesting since you guys
Very
have left
interesting,
right?
As
well.
It's a lot going on. I would love to see that. I'm open to all of that. But again, people are still holding on to shit. Stuff. And I'm really like, girl, let's go eat and talk about it.
And ain't nobody,
Baby,
it ain't nobody working for real.
The richest man I know, the richest black man I know, told me, stop letting your money have feelings.
That's the truth. Come on, somebody. Message.
Stop letting your money be emotional. He's worth billions.
Message. So, Nicci, you said something that's providing me a perfect segue into the next thing that I want to talk about, which is the stuff going on with P-Valley and so on and so forth. You said, when you had your departure from R&B Divas, that people painted you out to be the bitch, and it further exacerbated what some people already thought of you. And I'm going to be honest with you. You're absolutely right. Yes. Because when the P-Valley stuff hit the fan,
Be sure to catch part 3 of this interview, P-Valley.